Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so today what we're going to focus on is home buying and kind of the process it takes to buy a home. So for most of you guys, this is going to be an event that's going to take place, far in the future. But I think it's never too early to kind of learn a little bit about it. For some of you, you might be able to buy a home earlier than you expect, and you want to kind of know a little bit about the process and how it works in order to be an educated buyer. And so, like, there's a long process. Usually, it involves getting a mortgage. And so I'm going to kind of take you guys through that whole process today, and hopefully you can learn some things that can help you in your future. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is like what determines whether you should be looking to buy a home. So like when you think about this, there's really two options, major options as far as housing is concerned, and that's buying either a home, a co-op, a condo, or renting an apartment or a home. So like when you think about it, what are some things that you should kind of think about before you decide to like go down that road of buying a home? So there's some major factors to think about. Why don't you guys take 30 seconds and try and jot down some ideas of things that you think you should be thinking about before you decide to go down the road of buying a home. All right, so if you took the 30 seconds and you wrote down some things, I'm going to go through a couple different things that I think are important. So number one, you should be thinking about your overall income. How much do you make? How large of a down payment will you be able to make? So how much money do you make income-wise? How much savings do you have? Also, you should be thinking about what can I afford monthly as far as my payment is concerned. The bank might say you potentially could get a mortgage for a home of, let's say, like $400,000 or $500,000, but like you personally might say like, well, I can't afford to actually make that payment. The bank thinks I can, but I won't be able to. So you have to kind of do your own self-investigation of your finances. How much of a mortgage payment can you make each month? Other things to kind of think about are some outside factors like what kind of job do you have? How steady is your job? Do you feel like you can continue to pay a mortgage over 15, 20, 30 years? Because that's how long typically mortgages last for. Other things to think about are do you want to stay in your current location? Do you like the city or the town or the area that you're living in? Do you want to buy a home here? Is this where you see your family and like yourself living for the next 20 or 30 years? Does your job change location often? Is it more feasible for you to rent? Are you single? Are you married? Do you have children? Like, what are you kind of looking for at the moment? All those things I think play a role, and also like the prices of homes in your area. So like for example, we're from Queens, and so like the houses in our area are pretty expensive as compared to, let's say, other places in the country. Like the typical home in different parts of Queens can be anywhere from like 600,000 to over millions of dollars in just kind of like ordinary neighborhoods. And so like you might be thinking, well, maybe it's not just not feasible for me to buy a home. So like there are different factors you have to think about when you kind of go into this. And there's positives and negatives of like renting a home or buying a home. Excuse me, renting an apartment or a home or buying a home, or even buying an apartment if you live in like Manhattan or the city. So you want to think about those things before you kind of make this pretty big decision. Now, overall, when you think about buying a home, what we talked about, what makes buying a home usually a very intelligent and smart decision for a lot of reasons, is that homes usually appreciate in value over time, meaning they get more valuable. You can look at it as, yes, as a location to live. It's also an investment. And it's an investment that's going to appreciate in value over the years. And typically, homes more than keep up with the rate of inflation. So when we talk about investments for your future, a home is a great investment to build your wealth. And so like a lot of Americans, most of their wealth or a lot of their wealth is in their home. It's not necessarily in their bank account and their savings. It might be in the location that they live or the investment that they've made in their property. So you could look at it as a form of credit. You could also look at it as an investment at the same time. So when we were talking about credit, most Americans do not have the ability to just flat out purchase a home with cash. So what a lot of Americans have to do is to get a loan from the bank. So this is a form of a consumer loan type of credit, and specifically for homes, they call these mortgages. Okay, so there's a couple different types of mortgages. So first off, I just want to go over like broad things that you want to understand when you talk about mortgages. The first one is when you get a mortgage from a bank, there's a process where they kind of investigate you as far as like your credit and your job and your income, and that goes for any type of mortgage you might get. But certain aspects of it are, important to understand. So first off, we're going to go over like the basic stuff. So essentially, when you sign that, at the closing, you sign that contract with the bank. Essentially, what you're agreeing to is like a contract of payment with the bank, and it's going to be over a certain number of years. So there's going to be a length to your mortgage, and then there's going to be like a monthly payment that you owe. Okay, so first thing, the most common length of mortgages are ranging anywhere from about 10 years to 30 years. On the 30 years on the high end, 10 years on the low end are typical for home ownership mortgages or loans. Now, usually the higher the number of years, the higher the interest rate is. Usually the lower the number of years, the less of an interest rate you pay. So that's the second factor you want to kind of keep in mind. Different banks are going to offer different interest rates on the loan. And so like when you go to get a mortgage, you want to shop around a little bit. You just don't want to just go to like one bank or one lending area or one lending company. You want to go to several, and you want to compare their offers that they give you. Because remember, you are the shopper here. You're the shopper for the home, but you're also the shopper for the mortgage, right? So you want to compare what are the terms that they're offering me, what is going to be my monthly payment, what is the interest rate that they're offering this loan to me on. And the interest rate can range anywhere from, as low as 3% or somewhere in that ballpark, all the way up to 6, 7%, 8%. Depends on the bank that you're going to, but it also depends on the economy at the time, and all different kind of factors as far as interest rates set by the Fed, which is the Federal Reserve. So like those kind of things are determined and important things to understand when you're shopping for a mortgage. So remember, number one, you're shopping. You're not just taking whatever offer a bank gives you. You can go to different locations and you want to compare. What are their interest rates? How long am I going to have to pay this off? Do I want to get a 10-year mortgage where I have to pay it off over 10 years? Do I want to get a 20-year mortgage? Do I want to get a 30-year mortgage? Like how long do I want to be paying off this? And, the benefit to a longer mortgage, let's say like a 30-year mortgage, is that the payments are going to be less because they're spread out over a longer period of time. But it takes 30 years before you actually fully own your home. The benefit to a shorter mortgage, or 10 years, let's say 10 or 15 years, is that you're going to pay it off quicker, so you're going to own your home faster. After 15 years, you will actually be the owner of the home. But kind of the negative side to it is that you're going to pay, you're going to end up paying a less of an interest rate, but a higher, overall principal payment, because your payments are spread out over less time. It's over 10 years. So you want to keep those factors in mind when you decide what type of mortgage or what length of mortgage you'd like to get, and how important it is for you to outright own your home quickly. Now, there are different forms of mortgages, so we're going to just briefly go through some of these. So the first one is a conventional mortgage. So those two factors that I just talked about, the length of the loan, ranging anywhere from 10 years to 30 years, and then also the style of payment is what makes something a conventional mortgage. So let's say, for example, you got a 30-year mortgage, right? In a conventional mortgage, what makes it conventional is that you get an interest rate from the bank. So let's say your interest rate was 4%, and it's going to be a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. What the fixed rate means, and that's what makes it conventional, is that over time, every single payment that you make will stay the same. So it's not going to change over time. You will be paying the same amount every single month over the next 30 years. So that's a conventional fixed rate mortgage. You have a set amount of time that you're paying it off for, and you have a set payment that you're making every single month. So this is the most traditional form of a mortgage, and it's what most people usually get. It's also the safest form of a mortgage because you know exactly how much you're going to be paying every single month. Now, with conventional mortgages, usually though, they're going to ask for a specific amount of money as a down payment. So when you buy a home, you always have to put money down, because the bank wants to know that you are truly invested in this home and you're not just going to miss your payments and be somebody that they lend to that they cannot trust. So usually in a conventional mortgage situation, you're going to have to put down 20% of the purchasing price of the home. So let's say, like a simple example, if the home was $100,000, you would have to put down 20% of that, which would be $20,000. So you have to pay upfront at your closing $20,000, and then you pay the rest of it off, the 80% off, with a certain interest rate over the next, say, 20 or 30 years. So that's a conventional fixed rate mortgage. Other types, which are less common, so I just want to expose you guys to that they're out there, because certain banks might try to pitch these types of mortgages to you, and there's benefits and negatives to these. One is called an adjustable rate mortgage. So an adjustable rate mortgage works the same way as far as like length of it. Let's say, for example, 15, 20 years or so. But what's different about this is that your interest rate is not fixed. So the interest rate set by banks and by the Federal Reserve kind of changes as the economy either improves or declines. Adjustable rate mortgages kind of like fluctuate with the economy. So your interest rate can go up, it can go down, as things are changing within the economic climate within the United States. So you might think to yourself, well, why would anybody want an adjustable rate mortgage? Well, it might benefit a person if, during the time that you're actually buying your home, interest rates are high in the country. So currently they're very low. So this would not be a really smart kind of mortgage to get now. But let's say, for example, like they're really high, and you're hoping that over time they're going to go down. This might be a smarter form of a mortgage to get in, or it makes more sense in a climate like that. To me, it's not the type of mortgage I would ever go for, because I like to know exactly how much I'm going to be paying every single month, and I don't want it to fluctuate with anything. And I would feel much more comfortable with the conventional mortgage. But for some people, they'll go the road of an adjustable rate mortgage. The other one, which is even less common, I would say, is a balloon mortgage. This one, how this works is, usually when these types of mortgages, in the beginning, your interest rate is really low, maybe for the first couple of years. And then, as it implies, a balloon kind of blows up. Your interest rate gets higher and higher as the years increase, to account for your low interest rate in the beginning. So it's not following like the interest rate that's going on within the country and like how the economy is doing. You know how much this is going to increase over time and what interest rate you're going to have to pay. So like, let's say it might start at like 2%, like really early for the first couple of years. Then it goes to 4%, then it goes to 7% or 10%, over the next 5 and 10, 15 years. So this is what they call a balloon rate mortgage. Now, why would somebody sign up for this one? If you're like a young person or a young couple, and you don't have a high income and a lot of money in the beginning, this might seem attractive to you because the payments in the beginning are going to be less, and you're thinking, well, in the future I'm going to have a better job or a higher paying, I'm going to get a raise at my job, and I'm going to be able to make these larger payments. So some people might opt for a balloon type mortgage. In my opinion, the safest and the best way to go about it is a conventional mortgage. Okay. We don't have too much time. We only have about a minute left, but important things to kind of note is that there's different steps to buying a home. So why don't you guys just pause the video, take a look at them, and try and define for yourself what you think happens and why you would need these different steps in buying a home. I think the important one that I'm just going to highlight for you guys is this idea of a closing. So the closing is when you actually physically purchase the home or sign the loan from the bank. And so like at the closing, there's something called closing costs, which I think is an important thing to know, which a lot of, I think, new people who are searching for a home don't account for in their finances. But there's a lot of fees. There's a lot of fees and taxes that you have to pay. You have to pay your lawyer. You have to pay a bunch of transfer taxes when you actually buy a home. And closing costs can amount to thousands upon thousands of dollars. So it's something that you have to factor in when you're searching for a home, and you have to have money set aside for your closing. Okay, we're going to stop there, guys, and we will pick up with other aspects of personal finance next week.